Sheepdog Nation. I'm so excited to bring you who is on my podcast. You may or may not have heard his music on my podcast. And if you haven't, then you've been under a fucking rock because I put it on here every chance I get. We have One Time Music on our podcast. He is a fellow law enforcement officer. One Time, I'm so excited to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself to us?
What up? This is One Time. Yes, it is. Like, I'm happy to be here. You know what I mean? This is the first time I'm doing this too, so it's going to be a good honor to be on your podcast.
We're excited to have you. So tell us who is One Time?
Well, first off, I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a dog father. I'm a public service member. I serve my community for a living. That's been my life calling. So that's who I am. Professionally, right? That's who I am. But then the other side is the artist, or hip hop artist, rap artist, but really just artist at the end of the day. That's the other person who I am. So
are you? I know this answer, but I'm just asking it. You've been in law enforcement. You started out when you were younger. You were in law enforcement.
Yeah. So. Getting started was like different for me because I was 21. First get, your badge and gun is when you're 21. Mm-hmm. So in South Carolina, kind of a quick backstory is I was a Division I athlete. I was a Super Prep All-American, Blue Chip All-American, out of Georgia, Elite 11 quarterback, coming out of Atlanta, Georgia, went to University of South Carolina on a full scholarship, played under Coach Lou Holtz for 2 seasons. And I'll say things just didn't work out too well with Skip Holtz and I ended up transferring to South Carolina State University and, was fortunate enough to be on the championship team. But then it got too political and I said, you know what, I'm done with this football stuff. And in turn, I didn't finish school. But I was left, stuck in a predicament where I needed to be. And you'll hear this in my music if you listen, but, I had to, pick a job. In Orangeburg, South Carolina, where I started law enforcement at, is a very rural area. And a nurse was a career. You could be a nurse. You could work in a plant, or you could work at, getting law enforcement. And, for me, I wasn't working in a plant. And I didn't have a degree or skill set to be a nurse. So I went to Orangeburg Department of Public Safety. And that's where I started my career at 21. I think it was May 5th, 2005, I started.
Wow.
And yeah, and Will Dual had it. We, went to the police academy, South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. And then I also went to the South Carolina Fire Academy. So we'll dual had it in Orangeburg, but I always love that place. Every chance I get to shout them out. A lot of my followers work at Orangeburg still, and some are still friends. And yeah, I still have a deep love for Orangeburg Public Safety. And then a couple of years, I stayed there about 2.5 years, close to 3 years, and I left and went to the State Patrol, South Carolina Highway Patrol. And that was another fun time, chasing down the drugs on the interstate and, a member of our CERT team. And I was fortunate enough to be, one of the guys on the escort team for the South Carolina State football team. So I got to sit on the sidelines at the game. And then just a lot of different things were going on at the time. I made a transition from the State Patrol and went to U.S. Department of Justice and worked there. I actually did contract work there where I was ahead of their SWAT team and, did some other stuff on the contract side of the house. And then I ended up being a project manager at the Executive Office of the President and then transitioned back into federal law enforcement. And so that's kind of a snapshot, and I accelerate this because this is not my resume. I'm not trying to get a job on it, but I don't want to bore you with my, my resume, but long story short, went to our K-9 program, ended up getting promoted through the ranks as a sergeant. Then I got promoted to lieutenant, tour commander, and then transitioned into the role that I'm in now, which I got promoted to captain, but I had to choose between the current work role I'm in, which I won't get too much in detail, but in the captain's position. But I had to take the position I am now for advancement. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, you've done a lot of things. And so, that's what I love so much about your music is you talk a lot about that. You talk a lot about you and, your experiences and stuff. And I love that. And so how did you, so like one thing, okay, I love your music. I think we all know that. I think I've said it a million times, but I'm going to stand behind that because I really do. And I feel like you're just so talented. I personally believe you need to be famous. I think you're on, Nicki Minaj's level, and Nicki's my girl, and you know how I feel about her.
Yeah.
And Sheepdogs, I was telling one time we were having a conversation and so I love rap. Like, it's just something that I just love it. And I just love it, and I study it and I listen to it. And when somebody has like amazing lyrics and they just make so much sense, but they say them and they can spit them in such an eloquently way. Like we go back and we think about like Eminem, like he can say things like, how did you just say that? I don't even know how you put those words together and they make sense, and they rhyme, and like, what the hell, right? So anyways, and so I was telling one time, like when you go and you listen to his music, I was telling him, I'm like, you've got bars on bars on bars, man. Like, you're the same way. And so Sheepdogs, you've got to go check out his music. You can find him anywhere at One Time Music. I listen to him on Apple Music, but you're also on Spotify, right?
Spotify, Amazon, it's, Napster. Napster is still out.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's like back in the day shit.
That's like back in the day. Like Napster, like I get the reports and I'm like, they still have that stuff around?
Damn.
But like anywhere, you should be able to find my music. Yeah.
But the cool thing about you and why is you're talking about my life. You're sitting here and you're talking about like one of my favorite, the first song of yours I ever heard was Baptized in Blue. And I'm just like, damn, like, how does he know my life? And what I love is you've taken your career, obviously, but you've rapped about it and you're talking about it. And it's like, I don't know. And so for any law enforcement officer, any first responder, because you were a firefighter, you did the dual thing. Yep. So you were a cop and a firefighter. So shout out to our FD guys and girls. Yeah. And, but you're bringing that into our cruisers with us, right? Into our cars with us. So I usually sit, and we were talking about this, I usually sit in my patrol car and like rap to like 50 Cent, some Nicki, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
right.
But what's cool is I can sit and put you on and I'm like, it's like, it fits a little better.
Yeah. And I think that's really where it started. Like when the idea, because I did like hip hop stuff all through high school. I've been fortunate enough to be around some like big producers that are producing for guys like T.I., Young Jeezy. I've been in the lab with these guys, and wow. I grew up in an environment, a community that has produced your Outkast. Like I remember Outkast coming into my apartments to pick up CeeLo Green, who lived in my apartments.
Wow.
Like, TLC went to my high school. Tiny from SWV, that's T.I.'s wife, went to my high school. Like I said, Outkast went to my high school. Like Tri-Cities High School in East Point, Georgia has produced a lot of talent, in East Point in general, like guys like Young Thug and all these guys grew up in that area. And so I just feel like, I embodied that and took that with me, and I wanted to make music. But as I grew older and I got into law enforcement, I said, look, I want to make something that represents what I do. Mm. And I grew up in an era where, you rapped about like what you were doing. Like it wasn't all this fake rap stuff where you can, just say Lord knows what. Mm-hmm. Like you had to have some accountability to the words that you were saying.
Mm.
And so I said, look, I'm a police officer. Like, I need to rap about what I'm doing and seeing, and maybe somebody will hear it and jam to it, because I didn't want to what I was listening to didn't represent what I was.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? And
Yes.
so I said, you know what? And take in mind, this is in, like, I got in 2005. I think I wrote the first song like I think like 2006, and put it on MySpace. Right?
Wow.
Right. This is a long time ago. And I wrote the entire Respect the Shield album during that time period. As we know, law enforcement, they don't get paid much. And that's a whole nother argument, but I just couldn't afford to go to a studio. But then what studio could I go to that the people running it weren't going to look at me like I was crazy about the stuff I was talking about? So I sat on Respect the Shield for maybe, 3 years.
Wow.
Before I even got to a place where I felt comfortable with going to the studio and recording. Because a little known fact, when I was policing in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and shout out to the troopers and the city cops and county deputies, when I was policing there, they had one of the highest crime rates per capita in the U.S., and so Lord knows I wasn't about to step in nobody's studio, because it was times I was at the local Walmart, and, I would see 2 or 3 people I had just locked up that last week, So I just wasn't going to go in a place where I just felt, I was going to put myself in a situation where it was going to be compromising. But back to the music, sitting in the fire station when we used to rotate, on days, we'll have Panama schedules. So you might get a day or 2 where you're working in the actual fire station. It's a lot of downtime. It wasn't like a traditional fire, department where you had a whole crew. You was the only guy manning the station.
Wow.
And it was your job to take the fire truck to the fire scene, and the guys on the street would meet you at the actual the fire call, if it was a structure fire, whatever fire call it was, in their patrol vehicle. So during that downtime, I would write, music and what I would see and experience, like firsthand, what I was seeing and experiencing, and not even what I was experiencing, what I felt like law enforcement officers would want to felt. Like, my music was a lot more aggressive too back then. I think Respect the Shield, I actually cursed a couple of times. I think literally a couple of times. But the emotion in the album wasn't kind and friendly. It was more of a hit back first, I guess us against them kind of mentality. Like, it was like I was coming from the NWA mentality. Like, they were saying F the police, and I was like, you know what? Well, F you too. Like, and that's how I've always written my music, is to say, you know what? You talk about us. Well, let me talk about you.
Yeah.
Let me give my brothers and sisters in blue something to stand behind, and that they can chant back.
Yes.
Versus some of the shenanigans that you have to endure while listening to the radio, on night shift, and they're playing the same songs over and over and over again.
Yes.
Now, when I was on the streets, like, we didn't have like CD players, and you had to get like an FM transmitter and stuff like that. You didn't have the auxiliary ports and all that stuff like that. So you was at the mercy of whatever was on your local radio station on night shift, and it was just murderous, so.
And that's a fun fact that I want everybody to know, is that you don't even swear in what you write.
Yeah. I feel bad because, I'll give you an example. Not this past police week, last year before last, I had an actual vendor's booth. And, the people that were coming to my booth were like kids. And I had parents, law enforcement officer parents that were like, look, we love your music because we can allow our kids to listen to it. And like more so than anything, I know I have a good followership that is young, that are, middle school, high school age kids that are, their parents don't want to listen to that nonsense. And I take pride in the fact that my kids can listen to it and, and be good.
I love it. especially because every other word out of my mouth is usually the F word. So, so no, I love that. I love that about, you know, I don't know. So and that just adds to it though, right? I think it just adds to your talent because there's a lot of rappers, there's a lot of musicians, and that's all they do is swear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's and it's no thought process into um into the lyrics. Like it takes a lot. And I think my dad, you know, used to tell me, like, look, son, like cursing just really shows your lack of vocabulary. You know, like
Yeah.
you can't find another way to express yourself. Now, please don't take this as I don't have a potty mouth at times. I feel like I curse way more when I'm not, you know, writing music.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think when you're dealing with rap music,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think I have a duty to say, look, guys, I know you like rap. I know it's a lot of people that love rap music. They just don't like what it represents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in a position where when they do listen to my music, I have a duty and responsibility to expose them to what rap can be.
Well, yes, exactly. And here's the thing. This is one thing I want to say is that I you know, like I said in the beginning, I love rap. I love music. It moves me in a way that, you know, like, so, you know, I don't even know if I told you this one time, but so I've been a competitor in the martial arts since I've been young. I
Okay.
would compete all over and I would compete with like top people. Okay. And how
Right.
I would get pumped up, right, is music. And that would put me in this state of mind, right? But
Right.
the thing is, and so like it's always moved me, and I know there's so many people that feel just like me, but the problem is as a cop, right, sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, exactly what the music is standing for, I can't be sitting here going, I'm a trap queen, right? Because I'm not.
I'm not. Right.
You know, but what your stuff does and what I enjoy, and obviously what you're putting forth, and it's your, you know, you're doing it on purpose, is you are giving me, like, I can still be a badass and I can still be my own Nicki
Yes.
Minaj, but
Yep.
I'm actually talking about you. You were talking about my life. You know, one of my favorite songs you have, and it will be highlighted on this song. So sheepdogs, listen, is one of my favorite songs of yours is "It's Been a Go."
Right.
And you're just talking about, you know, going to the range and going, you know, and writing warrants and going to the courthouse, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
being prepared, and you're just saying it's been a go, like friggin' yeah, like this is my life, like holy shit, this has been a week, you know, or it's been a
Yeah.
life or a month, and it's so relatable. And for us, especially like working night shifts and stuff like that, I mean, it's such a lifesaver because I'm sitting here like he gets me, someone gets me,
Right.
you know.
And when you like for me, like I went through A school with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, which is aggressive criminal enforcement school. So it's essentially a drug and addiction school. That was
Okay.
my thing. Like I loved, you know, trying to chase down the bad guys and get, you know, dope off the streets and all that good stuff. And, you know, like specifically Been to Go is just really just talking about, you know, basic interdiction, you know, stuff, especially the second verse, you know, get the car pulled over, you got a passenger driver, you know, you separate the driver. These are basic law enforcement tactics. You
Yes.
separate the drivers, you interview one, you interview the other, you
Mm-hmm.
know, come back, interview them, you know, ask the
You talk
same
about the
questions.
Terry frisk. Yeah.
Yeah. You ask same questions, see if it's any conflicting stories. Okay, it is. Something's not right. You know we can get free air act. We can have a K9 go around the vehicle. If we see any change in behavior, you know, that's going to give us probable cause. And
So time out. My husband, he's a canine handler. When he heard that lyric, he like jumped through, like he was so sick. He's like, he just said canine. And so then he gets on Snapchat and he records it, and then he sent it out to all of his
that's
canine buddies.
awesome.
He's like, look, these guys, listen. And like everybody's like, oh, that's so sick. Like canine, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So I know because I mean, I didn't do or later in life, I didn't do the interdiction with dogs, but some of the same case laws applies with explosives. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I just I wanted to walk people through, like, that's real. Like, that's case law. Like, you know, you got, you know, things that are applicable. Like, these are things that we actually do.
Yes.
And it's real life. And I think what I want to do is try my best. And I'm an artist too, so I may not go through everything that I may write,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody will. Like
Yeah.
somebody has,
Yes.
somebody is going through. And I think, what I try to do is capture what they may be going through also. And I can use my ability to see what my peers have gone through, what I've gone through, some, stories I may have heard, and construct them in a manner that, over a beat and rap to it, that it may impact somebody.
Yes. And so would you say, okay, so you said that you started doing this like when you were younger, which I want to circle back around to that. So what the hell is in the water at that high school? Like, what are they putting in the water where they have like all these successful, like massively successful people?
Yeah, it was just different. Like, you got to remember in Atlanta specifically, like, we accepted all music, right? In the 90s, we didn't have our own like music per se. Like, we had local artists, but we was on the Uncle Luke, Faz, booty shaking music kind of stuff. And we didn't really have an ID in hip hop music until Outkast really came along. And some people can argue like, look, who came first or what was, I grew up on Outkast, and but I also grew up on Dr. Dre and all that. Everybody's music came through Atlanta. Everybody's,
Really?
From Texas, Scarface in Texas. You had West Coast music. You had your Tupac. You had your everything. You had the Miami music. You had Tennessee, like the blues, like all that stuff with like 8 Ball and MJG from Tennessee. You had 3 6 Mafia. All of that kind of bundled up in Atlanta. That's where it ended up. And so then when you see, because we accepted everybody. You remember, like in New York, they didn't accept the West Coast sound.
Yes.
West Coast didn't really want to accept New York sound. Atlanta was like, yeah, we taking everything, right? And I think that's what really, for artists now, like the futures of the world that are around our age group, that grew up in that kind of, we're going to take all this music and create our own. That's kind of where we are now. And I think that's why you see a lot of people blowing up in Atlanta, because we took that and made our own sound from it. And I think that's why music has landed in Atlanta and been there so long now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever? So one of my favorite songs. You probably didn't know it was going to turn into this, but it is. It's just because I love this shit. I love talking about it so much. Did you ever listen to, or did you ever know of, is Jermaine Dupri from Atlanta?
No, actually, Jermaine Dupri isn't from Atlanta. He moved into Atlanta. But man, what a great songwriter. I think he's actually been inducted. Maybe, is he in the Songwriter Hall of Fame with Jay-Z? I think him and Jay-Z got inducted at the same time.
I know Jermaine's like behind a lot of good
Oh
songs.
Man, Bow Wow, his whole career is based on that. Chris Cross, I remember sneaking into the woods, asking my parent, Dad, can I change my pants inside, backwards? Chris Cross, he was like, nope. I went to the woods, changed them joints up, and went to school and changed them back before I got home. But
it's so funny.
But yeah, Jermaine Dupri is a super, super talented writer. Doesn't get enough respect.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Would you say that this has helped you, as far as the job? You've done a lot of things. I think that you've seen a lot of things. And, would you say that this has helped you in your mental, like, I don't want to say mental health, but that's what it is. Like, is rapping like your outlet, or like making music, like writing? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah. I think everybody with a job that is so high stressed, they need some form of outlet. They need some way to blow off steam.
Yeah.
And I think if, for your listeners, if they just took a moment and closed their eyes and thought about that one guy on a job that nothing ever seems to really bother them, him or her.
Yeah.
Like, man, they are always just in the groove or something. I almost guarantee that person is doing something outside of work.
Yeah.
Like first off, just living, right? They're like, look, they may ride motorcycles. They may go to the range. They may do fitness, they may run, they may write. That person always has an outlet to blow steam because they found a way to live outside of the job.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what many, when they get in, and I'm fortunate to go in such a young, vulnerable age at 21, right? Like 21, you're still wet behind the ears. Like I was just like, look, lock everybody up and we'll deal with it later. Like, or, you know, like nothing really stressed me too much. You know, I think I cried like after seeing my like first homicide. Like I was like, yo, humans like this crazy? Like that impacted me because I was like, I really didn't know how evil people could be, right? Like, but I still had an outlet to be able to express that, right? And you can hear most of my sorrows or complaints in my lyrics. I can go back and write it down, and that was my outlet. So it helped me stay mentally sharp when I wasn't at work. And I found out, like, you know, family was my thing. Like being around my family and being off or going to the gym, I had a way to escape away from the job. So it really had helped. Music has really been an outlet.
Yeah. I think, do you think that everybody needs that?
Hell yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, on the other side, like if you look at the people that have something to go to, right? The jovial, vivacious coworker that's like nothing ever gets to them. Look on the other end of that spectrum. The person that doesn't, the one that they're single, you know, not saying it's just single people, but they're single, or, you know, they can't talk to their spouse.
Right.
They're in this vacuum. So everything they see, those emotions, those concerns, those complaints, everything that they're dealing with in 12 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours, they're taking home and they have nowhere to let it out. So you know what they do? They look to the bottle and they drink, or they, you know, take prescription pills, or, you know, they eat. You know, let's not, you know,
That's
there's
true.
a whole bunch of different ways, and those are the outlets that they're not really letting go to that negative energy. They're holding it in, and they're finding ways to cope. And most of the times when they cope, it's something, you know, super negative, and unfortunately that drives depression.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like this never-ending thing where like drinking is causing issues maybe with your spouse because they're like, you're drinking too much. You're like, well, no, you don't understand why. And they don't even understand themselves. Or if you live alone, and again, I'll say that instead of single, because if you live alone, it's compounded because you're alone. Nobody gets, your family doesn't get what you're going through. People, even your own family at times doesn't, they don't get it. They don't get what you're going through and dealing with. They look at the media and they paint a picture based on the perception of what the media puts out, right? That's very controlled, and they put out what they want you to see, and most of the time it's negative. I don't give a damn what network, you know, it is. Most of the time they paint a picture outside of, again, I'm not, you know, outside of Fox, because they have been consistent for law enforcement, right? But outside of that, you're going to get a negative depiction of law enforcement. So family doesn't get it. So they're stuck dealing with their woes and concerns alone. And fortunate for you, like fortunate we have people like you that are creating a platform for law enforcement officers, you know, to talk to somebody, a real person that can understand them. But I don't think the law enforcement community is taking mental health serious enough.
Agreed.
I don't think we're putting enough resources into mental health within the departments. I think that should be, you know, I think that should be a part of the job. I think that it should be a part of any organizational structures to have somebody that officers can talk to, and that you won't use that information against them later.
Agreed. I know.
So
And it's hard, it's hard. Like you said, it's hard because who the hell we don't trust. I mean, we don't trust anybody, and it's hard to even trust other cops. I mean, it just is, especially the ones you
true,
work with. Like, let's
true
just,
that.
you know, you said something, and I want to circle back around to it. And you said, back on about 10 minutes ago, and you just said, because you're like, that rapping helped you become more than the job, or writing music, right? Because
Right.
would you agree? So would you agree? And you also said that you were an artist, and I love that. Like, I know we hear it like, oh, hip hop artist, right? But when you think about what that actually means, it means that you're more than, just a law enforcement officer, just a firefighter, just an EMT, corrections officer, right? Like, I think, and I want to hear what your opinion is one time, but like my, I stand on this is, we lose ourselves to the job. We just
Yeah.
become the job, and that is all we become. That's it, 100%. And then that is when our mental health goes right down the toilet.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you got to remember, like, a lot of people, this is it for them.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people, they probably weren't athletes. They didn't have that athletic thing going on, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't athletes. They didn't get any senior superlatives when they graduated, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have all these other, human factors in there. So when they found law enforcement, that became them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have that, you're already at a disadvantage, because you know nothing else. Now, it's nothing wrong with that, right? It's nothing wrong with that. But you do have, in order to find balance,
yeah,
you need to find something else. Hunting, look at things within law enforcement that you can do, like bike patrol, right? Other special units that you can apply those skills outside of work.
Yes.
And I think people just don't intuitively do that. They need help. They need veteran officers to say, look, man, I notice this is all you're doing. Look,
yeah.
You're pretty good at shooting. How about, let's join the local gun club and do some gun competitions, some shooting competitions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you like to hunt? Let's go hunt. Or, it doesn't have to be nothing like that. Hey, let's go bowling. Let's join a bowling league.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
just something.
Because I think again, I can speak from experience, because when I became a law enforcement officer, look, I didn't care about nothing else. Nothing else in the world mattered but law enforcement, period.
Yes.
Policing, I carried my gun 24, and I still do, but you carry your gun everywhere. You have your police shirt on, like, I am the police. Don't mess with me. I'll, lock you up. I had everything, everything. I was flagging, I was flagging everywhere.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
and then you get a little older and you stop doing that shit.
Right. Because, I was young, but I was proud of it. It was a sense of pride. Like, I was part of a brotherhood, sisterhood that nobody else was a part of. I earned my stripes. At that point, I went through a couple of academies at the time. Like, couldn't tell me nothing. But then reality sunk in. Like, okay, I remember my police chief. And I tell you this quick story. Like, I was gonna leave the department. Like, I was like, look, man, I'm getting paid $23,500. That was my salary coming in.
Wow.
In 2005. It was dual hatted. And I take in mind, I wasn't even thinking about, like, the fact that we were dual hatted. It was just like, look, I have the most, arrests at the department, most ticket citations at the department. I'm killing it. I'm like, but y'all told me I was going to get like a little raise when, once I hit my, certain benchmarks. And that never happened. As, families started growing, I was having kids. I'm like, man, I'm struggling right now. It was like, look, I got to go put meat on the table. So the police chief, I went to turn my resignation in, and he said, look, let's sit down. Wendell Davis. He said, look, this is the only job that you will be able to, you know, when you clock on and you say, you know, I want to go pay a bill, you can go pay a bill. He said, if you want to take an early lunch, you can take an early lunch. If you want to go left, you can go left. If you want to go right, you can go right. He said, if you want to go home and check on your family, go on your tour of duty, absolutely can. He said, now, if you go over to that plant, he said, you're going to have to stay at that plant for 30 years, pressing the same button. He said, you're going to have to brake when they tell you to brake. He said, if emergency happens at your house, so be it. You better figure out, you know, what you're going to do because you can't leave there. Mm-hmm. He said, what other job will you have the freedom and the power and responsibility that no other person can have? You can take somebody's freedom. Mm-hmm. He said, in no other profession do you have that power. I was like, hey, you right. I was like, you right. So, you know, I pulled my my resignation. They gave me the raise, you know, my raise and all that good stuff, and we was back on board. But, you know, I say that like this is a lot of power in the job. Like you can take somebody's freedom, you can take somebody's life if you meet Fourth Amendment standards and all that stuff. And like, what other job do you have that much power?
Right.
And with that power comes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. You know, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a precarious thing, and I think it's a balance. But I just, again, what you're doing and what you're putting out there for us, it's making a difference. We've had some conversations, and you've had some people reach out to you and tell you that, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've talked before, and I said, look, at times, you know, you want to be like that super popular person. And I can't help, because I am a human just like you or anybody else, that when I look at my followers and I say I got, you know, a couple of thousand followers and everybody else is sitting on 500,000 followers. And I'm like, am I not good enough? Are you not hearing what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right.
Is my message not good? It's not even about the numbers. It's about what police officer, I believe every police officer in America should be listening to my music, period.
I couldn't agree more.
Put it out, but I believe I have a message that speaks specifically to them. And, you know, it was times I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm hanging it up. You know, it costs so much money to put a project out. You know, I don't think people realize, you know, how much it costs. A couple of $1,000s to put a project out, a few $1,000s to put, not a few hundred, but a few thousand to put a project out. And, you know, again, if people are not listening, well, that project isn't going to get, you know, pay for itself, basically, right? And I do this all on my own. So I told my wife, like, I can't do it. And I got a message one day. Take in mind, I got a couple of messages, but I got one particular message where a guy was like, look, man, like, your music really talked me off the edge. Like, you know, he went through an officer-involved shooting, and he ended up having to, you know, take somebody's life, nearly lost his, and, you know, luckily recovered. But it was one of those scenarios where it's like, man, like, my music impacted you to that point that, you know, kind of talked you off the ledge, got you through depression. And you're driving forward now. Then I said, you know what? If one person listens to it, and if I can change one person's life,
yes, then
it's worth every single penny that I put into an hour, the money and time that I put into make a project, because that's what it's about, and that's why I started making the music, not for the money. You know, I'm doing it to impact people in their lives.
And it shows. And, you know, just a couple of things, you know, is I couldn't agree more. You know, I have a podcast, and it's by no means the number one, you know, law enforcement podcast. Not yet. One day, I promise. One day it will be. But, you know, so I know what it's like to be standing on a platform, and you're doing it for the greater good. You're doing it. Like, there's nothing that I put out. I made a post about this the other day. There's nothing that I put out that's all about me. If you go look at my Instagram, there's nothing on my Facebook. I mean, there's nothing that is all about me. Of course, there's pictures of me because it's my profile. But, you know, if you go and you look at the message and you look at what I'm doing, what I'm saying, it's not about me. And you're doing the same thing. It's not about you. You're doing it for the greater good. And and here's the message that I really want Sheepdog Nation, I want you to hear this, is that when you can become full of service, right? It's this deep passion, right? Like one time, I want to hear what you have to say about this, but I just really feel like for me, this podcast is 2 years old. I mean, I've been doing this for a minute, right? You too. And like, the thing is, it's very easy. If I wasn't doing it because it's what fulfills me and I wasn't motivated by just helping that one person, just one, if I was truly motivated by the numbers and the external like gratification and all that shit, I wouldn't be here doing this because I don't get a pat on the ass every time I turn around. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I mean, would you agree that that's probably what you've gone through too?
Yeah. Again, I'm not looking, if you look at I'm kind of same position as you. I'm not like overly posting stuff. I post my opinions about different topics. I post my family and all that. You can talk about algorithms and what people want to see and all that. I don't care about all that stuff. Like, I'm posting who I am. And before anybody can buy, into anything, they have to like you, know you, and all that. The authentic you. Mm-hmm. And like you, I'm not doing this for followership. Never did. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to make money off the rap game, like some of these young folks. I'm not doing it because of that. I'm doing it because I can impact people. Yeah. And the best way to impact people, at times it's through music. It's through, gaining their ear and gaining their confidence and speaking to the soul of that person, the emotions of that person. Like, I'm hoping that in lieu of I may not have the best, Instagram account or Facebook account. I'm not trying to. Like, that's not my goal. Right? My goal is to make good music, period. And I think once people can get behind, get over the facade of that, like I had to myself get over the facade of the number. Okay. Numbers can lie, right? Data can lie.
Yes.
And that doesn't tell you the whole of what you're doing.
Right.
And I think for both of us, I think we have people that are listening to us that we are impacting. And in turn, it's a grassroots campaign. I always say that. I've been doing this. I released Respect Shield 2009. First cop to ever make a 100% dedicated law enforcement album in the history of, our nation, period.
Wow.
George Washington didn't do this, right? Right? Nobody was making like 100%. They wasn't thinking about law enforcement albums. I made the first dedicated hip hop album to law enforcement. Like, I'm not looking for, but I didn't do it looking for kudos. I did it because I wanted to speak to my brothers and sisters and give them something to listen to while they was on their patrol. So
absolutely.
And for everybody listening to us, like, this is by no means no pity party on it. I can give two hells if anybody listening to my music or not, because I'm not making it for not making it for everybody else. I want law enforcement, patriots, true Americans, people that love their country, people that love service-ship, people that need a mental release from the bull stuff that's out there, to listen. I'm not making it for no other reasons. I'm just making it for you. So don't get this little segment right here as a pity party from neither one of us, because I don't think we're looking for it. We're not looking for that, but we definitely want to express that we're putting a lot of work out in with the podcast, between the podcast and the music, to be able to support you that's on the roads, that's dealing with the nonsense on the streets, that's dealing with the people that hate you for no reason, that deals with the mental health issues that nobody else can get but brothers and sisters like us.
Yes.
Right? That's why we do this.
Absolutely. But I also think, and I want to underline that, but I think that because we're doing it for the right reasons and because it fulfills us, I think that it makes us happy, right? Like for me, Definitely. This is my outlet. Like, I started this to get on here and vent and bitch. I mean, you go, well, it's funny because you talk about your first album you dropped, right? And how when everyone was like, F the police, you're like, yeah, well, F you too. Well, if you go listen to my first season, I'm like, F you admin, F you bitches who think you're cops and you're not. Like, and I'm like, and I just gave it right to everybody. Right. And but that it helped me. It has helped me so much. But because it's helped me, it's helped so many people. And for you, you're the same way. And so I just want to underline to anybody listening, like when you can do something that you love doing, but not for the pat on the ass, that's really when you're going to succeed. Now, and what I mean by succeed is you're going to be happy and you're going to be fulfilled. I'm not saying you're going to be number one or anything like that. I mean, I think that comes after consistency, years of consistency. And I think that, but I just think that, and that's what I love about you. But what I also do is that this is the thing. You're a cop who makes music, and the music is actually friggin' good. It's not like, here I am trying really hard. It's here I am, and it's just flowing out of your mouth. And it's really good. So Sheepdogs, you're going to be able to, all the links are going to be below here in the show notes. You can go look One Time Music, go look them up on Instagram, go follow him. Apple Music, Spotify, Napster, YouTube, anywhere. Go check out his music. And after this, there's going to be right after this, there's going to be one of his songs, and it's called "It's Been a Go." And it's my favorite, and it's my favorite. Well, I have a lot of his favorites. There's my favorite songs. "Baptized in Blue" is my number one. I fell in love with. But the reason why I love this song so much is this is my favorite part, and I put it on repeat. And is it's I'm sheepdog and a mask, and it takes a wolf to catch a wolf, and I'm hungry for the catch. Yes. And I'm like, when you said that, I literally like flew right out of my window in my car. I'm like, oh, like my husband was sitting next to me, and he's like, shit, that's good. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, rewind, I need to listen to that. That was fucking awesome. He gets me.
Yes, it is.
It is good.
But people got, and just a quick note about that lyric. Every lyric, I think deep. And if you think about us as sheepdog, you think about what the sheepdog protects the sheep, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's their job. But when you're go-getter, and you think about, when we talk about interdiction, you're not just protecting the sheep. You're going to get the wolves.
Going to get it.
Right? You got to go get it. But and a good investigator will tell you, like, in order to catch a criminal, in order to catch a terrorist, in order to catch a narcos, in order to catch them, you have to become that, right?
Yes.
Right. And so it takes a wolf to go out. You got to become what you're trying to catch in order to get the wolves. Now you can protect. I think it's two kind of police officers, right? You got the sheepdog, right? They're gonna answer your calls, and they're gonna clear the cat out for the calls, and they're gonna, you're gonna write some tickets and stuff. They'll write tickets. They'll fall in line with what you're supposed to do in protecting and serving. But you got another group.
Yes.
And I think I'm in another group. I'm a go-getter. Who has the dope? Okay. I'm going a little bit further on the traffic stop.
Yes.
Not just writing a ticket. Where you going? Who was there in the passenger seat? You mind stepping out the car? Let's talk a little bit.
Yep.
I'm the guy. I'm going an extra mile to find the wolf. I'm not just doing the job. I'm not just answering the calls. When we answer between calls, I'm writing tickets. I'm out on foot patrol. I'm interviewing people. I'm doing my FI cards. I'm doing all that good stuff. So I think it's two different classes. You got sheepdogs, and you got that. You got the sheepdog with the wolf madge.
That's right. So. And it's beautiful, and that's so funny because I was just talking to a buddy of mine. He's a retired Miami cop, and we were just talking about that the best cops are borderline. They're borderline. Like, I can tell you, my history before I was a cop, I'm not Lily White. Hell no. I've done some stuff, but that's what makes that would be, it's borderline, right? You know what I'm saying? Right. I didn't kill anybody, but I did some stupid shit, but you know what? Because I did that stupid shit, I'm on the road and I can relate to these people. You and I had this conversation. I can have a conversation with somebody and listen, like I didn't grow up in the hood, didn't grow up on the streets, but here's what I can tell you. Where I patrolled was, we had some stuff, but because I could relate and I just talked to them, the way they talked to me, I mirrored, reflected it. And you learn that. You learn that when you have to survive in some sketchy fucking areas.
Damn right.
That's right. You learn that, right? And so
you gotta adapt.
that's right. And so I'm just saying, like you just said, the best, in my opinion, sheepdogs are the ones with the wolf mask. I mean, because we come from the shit.
You gotta, and I think that's one thing. If I had to tell like young officers in the streets, like now, like look, that badge is it's a symbol of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you gotta respect me. It's a symbol of service. Respect is still mutual on the street. Like it's still a street code. Like cops, you're in the streets. Like that's what you do for a living. You know, when guys talk, you know, the guys in hip hop culture are these young thugs or ultra rednecks. They in the streets too, right? You with them. You with them. So that means you have to be able to adapt to the street codes and understand how people maneuver in the streets. You got to understand people. Law enforcement is a common sense sport. It just take common sense. You ain't got to have rocket science. You just need to have common sense. So if you know how to treat people, give them what you give back, give a little respect, man, that stuff will go a long way, man. Like, because at the end of the day, right or wrong, good, bad, or ugly, people just want respect. Your badge
100%.
and uniform don't mean they got to respect you. And until cops understand that, like, and those are the ones that don't, they don't get it, right? They don't get they don't know how to give it back and reciprocate respect, right? Reciprocation. It's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It talks about one of the principles is reciprocation. But if you reciprocate, what they give it that same energy. I mean, a lot of situations you may run into may be de-escalated so much.
Yes.
And if you give a little respect, sometimes you gotta yield to give respect. Like, look, I ain't here to cause no drama, but you mess up, you about to get locked up, partner.
Yep.
But I think once we get to a point where we understand that, and not saying that cops are doing anything wrong, but we know there are some that are like, look, bro, you need to like tone it down a little bit. Like you acting like the nerd at school that they got picked on, and now you got a badge and uniform. You want to take advantage of it to get back at the bullies. No, don't do that.
Yeah. And that's a conversation. That's a whole nother
conversation. But
but you're right. And so just to circle back around, so sheepdogs, go listen to that. It's been a go. It's going to be right after this. One time, what do you want to leave us with?
Look, first off, hey, appreciate you. I really appreciate what you're doing. I really appreciate, because I know you're reaching out to officers, you're coaching cops. And look, for those who are listening and you know somebody, make sure you tell them to hit up Officer Autumn, man. She's doing a great job of providing a platform for you to be able to let go some of that negative energy. You just got to let it go sometimes. And you may not have the people around you to let it go to. So I really appreciate you. I want to give you kudos, because you're not doing this for, the wrong reasons. You're not doing it because you want to get likes. You got a very respectful page. You're not, trying to show yourself off to gain followers. And we know people can go down that simplistic route to do it. Yeah. And I like the fact that you're staying true to yourself, true to the mission, and really just doing it for, the LEOs and everybody else. I mean, veterans, anybody that needs that ear and support, you're giving it to them. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the support. And I just want to tell Sheepdog Nation, man, y'all stay true to yourself. You're human just like anybody else. When that badge and gun come off, you're just like everybody else, man. And don't lose who you are. Don't lose who you are because of the badge and gun, but don't change who you are because of the badge and gun, if that makes sense, man. Like, I love y'all. So stay safe, and just it takes a special person to sign up for this. So you indeed are, and just continue to do that, but just don't lose yourself.
So true. So good. Thank you so much. One time, Sheepdogs. just keep listening, and you're going to be listening, going right into one of my favorite songs, and it's called It's Been a Go.
Never been a moment that I ain't ready. Watch my six, cause I know these streets deadly. Sheepdog with a wolf mask. Takes a wolf to catch a wolf, and I'm hungry for the catch. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Aggressive enforcement is what I'm about. Define a dope or find a bombs. I run in your house. Lay it down on the floor. Put the pump in your mouth. This ain't gangster rap. I'm about what I shout. Flip the mattress, flip the couch for the guns and loot. You make the wrong freaking move, I promise I shoot. Terry Frisk for the weapons and other contraband. Treat criminals the same way I treat the Taliban. I'm the street landlord, I'm here to evict the dogs I roll with a bit to face off Michael Vick. Blue blood, baby, American made with grit. I can't be touched with this hammer, I'm too legit. It's never been a moment that I ain't ready. Watch my six, cause I know these streets deadly. Sheepdog with a wolf mask. Takes a wolf to catch a wolf, and I'm hungry for the catch. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. I'm not looking to the turf, I look to the tech. Simple possession, marijuana, kilos to text. I can do this by myself as I patrol the interstate. Looking for them northbound Fulton County place. When I get them on the shoulder, shoulders start to shake. I can notice the trunk was loaded down with weight. Where you going, where you coming from, and who you with. Ask the passenger driver, the stories don't seem legit. Inconsistencies got me thinking, and it's sweating real heavy for this winter weekend.
28, 29, go ahead and roll another unit.
Get the K9, free air act, change of behavior at the trunk, it was loaded with sacks. It's never been a moment that I ain't ready. Watch my six, cause I know these streets deadly. Sheepdog with a wolf mask. Takes a wolf to catch a wolf, and I'm hungry for the catch. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Affidavit signed for me, dog. Yeah, it's been a go. Got arrest warrants from the judge. Yeah, it's been a go. Long guns ready for the raid. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go. Yeah, it's been a go.